So what was amazing is when I left my last professional job, maybe seven or eight, maybe even 10 of people that I managed or supported were now managers or had elevated themselves in their careers.
Through things that you had put in place?
Through training programs, paths, you know, experience, secondments, blah, 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 blah. Now, I do understand the reluctancy when trying to bring someone in or bring someone upwards. As soon as you put your name forward and bring the next man along, I'm bringing Wiley along, Wiley comes in and messes up, all of a sudden now, there's a... No, because you vouched for Wiley or you gave him the alley, you gave him the gap in. And once you do that...
Well, you can't take that on board.
No, but once you do that, I'm not saying this is me. As I said, I brought quite a few people up. But once you do that, you open yourself up to be exploited to say...
What, litigation?
Well, we can't take it.
Birds of a feather.
We can't take his word again. Do you get what I mean? So there is that.
That's hard, man. That's hard. So if you got a job, Jay put you in charge of audio.
Right.
And you're here dealing with things. And then Jay says he needs somebody to deal with video. I'm your boy. We go drinking every weekend and you know I need a job.
I'd be like, you know what? Let's do a LinkedIn campaign. Let's find the best candidate. No, of course. No, of course. Like, obviously, you know me. That's in my DNA. Even in my current,
Even if you're not gonna fuck up.
But you won't.
All right. Let's say it's me and I'm gonna fuck up. All right. Let's say it's Wiley's gonna fuck up.
Well, whoever it is, if I know the likelihood they're gonna,
liabilities they're gonna,
they're not gonna do it.
So you're not gonna give them a chance.
If they're going to mess up.
But you don't know if they're going to mess up. There's a
Well,
possibility that they don't.
So if I know they're not going to mess up or they make there's a 60% chance, I'm taking them.
You're kind of asking a leading question.
No, what I'm saying is...
What you're trying to say is more a case of if you know that there's somebody that's like constantly messes up, but yet still, are you going to take that chance on them is what you're really trying to say.
No, I'm saying you can't prejudge someone in it. Maybe in all the other incidences where that person fucked up.
But you can.
There was something that was a factor towards this.
No. Well, if somebody...
so guilty until death?
No, then that's what I said. You're leading a question, you're putting it in a box a little bit because you're like, is that, what if it's me? What if it's someone that
I give you the job.
Yeah. Well, there you go.
Yeah. Buddy, I don't know, buddy.
No, but it's like you're trying to say, what if they're royal, that's what they do, they mess up. Are you still going to take them? And he's trying to explain that. So that's why I said you're kind of leading it a bit.
All right, I think that's fucked up.
I think that you have to, the key thing here is we're talking about your professional reputation. We're not talking about friendship and everything, your professional reputation. I can't risk my professional reputation being put at the mercy of someone that I can't trust. And ultimately, that's what it comes down to. Can I trust you to not mess up my name in my professional environment? As friends, we might be boys, you might mess up in a friendship and all sorts. That's cool. As friends, you can do that. But in a professional environment, which is my livelihood, which is my name, ultimately, I can't risk that. If I know that you're going to mess it up, there ain't no way I'm bringing you through. Because you're going to mess it up.
Oh, but the other side of what he's trying to say is that there's no guarantee that they're going to mess it up. So where you're saying, so, and we can use our friendships in the room if you wanted to. Like,
but he's going to fuck up.
Let's just be real, innit? Like, if you feel to yourself, oh, I'm going to mess up a certain situation for you, are you now going to turn and say to yourself, well, look, I'm not going to put Buddy forward because I feel he will mess up. I feel he's going to turn up late. So I'm not gonna put him forward for that job. Now, if you start doing things like that, how does that now affect our friendship? Because if you're going to start turning and saying to yourself, well, you're saying you don't trust me, and trust is a massive thing inside of any type of relationship that you have. Friendship, girlfriend, boyfriend thing, it's a massive part. So when you're going to sit there and say, now, basically, I don't trust you with my profession because I feel to myself with my word. So my word's my bond. And if I don't trust you now with my word, we're not friends really. Then I'm an associate of yours.
But then going back to the original,
if you're not in that profession.
No, that wasn't.
But he said, "I need the job." He never said, "I know to do the job." He said, "I want a job. I need the job."
No,
and
no,
we're brethren. That's what
that
he said.
wasn't what you said.
That is what Sirelli said.
But to go back
So-
to the original point that Sirelli was saying, which was that he was talking about, for those who didn't catch it at the start of the podcast, he was saying basically that he was having a conversation with a female that he knows, and she was saying that women do not bring through other women. In fact, it's better you just relay
No,
what
man,
you said.
you were doing a good
Replay
job
what you said.
in impersonating me.
Impersonating you,
That was quite good. That was
Indeed,
good.
both
but
got the
basically
beard.
saying that
Yeah.
Both got the bar,
exactly,
eh?
Little
you know?
bit taller though.
Lend him the cap. Lend him the cap.
Yeah, so
Exactly,
Both got grey tracksuits on.
exactly.
You're good.
Go on.
This
fire away.
is the king side, isn't it?
You know, go on.
So yeah, so as my fellow African man was saying, having a conversation with a good friend of mine, and she was just chit chatting about things, and something happened in her workplace. And the long and shorts of it was that she felt that when women get to a level of success in a working environment, that they don't bring up their sisters around them. And I said, I feel that when guys get to that level, they tend to bring their boys with them. They tend to bring, even if it's one guy, just so that it's almost like so that they've got someone to hold their back, someone to say, yeah, I'm there with you. Go on, Tongo, you're itching.
I just remembered I was lying. When I said that, I don't know of any example. When I used to work in the same organisation that you currently work, the top manager in the team was a black African lady, and she was friends with quite a few of the staff in the team, and she had promoted them, about 4 of them, to like a higher level, so they could get higher pay, etc., like in a short space of her time being up there. So actually, I've seen it, witnessed it happen actually. And she did quite a few, like, and there were white counterparts there that she could have employed or promoted as well, that had the opportunity. So yeah, she was good.
So that would be the flip side to what Sirelli's been told. The
Yeah.
flip side is that they do.
Well,
do
I've
the-
seen an
okay.
example of, but I couldn't say I could recollect another one.
It's a good thing Buddy didn't work there, because what Buddy's saying, if he thinks you're going to turn up late tomorrow,
I never said that.
you're not getting the
I
job.
was giving the example of what you was doing at the time. I never said that. Like, I'm saying to you that at the end of the day, our friendship is based off of trust. So I should be able to trust that you're not going to tarnish my name. So if I feel to myself that we are friends, then I'm going to say to myself, well, look, you're not going to tarnish my name. Help that, do what I've asked you to do, and go and do it as professional as you can, and in my name. If it's something that's against my name, and I trust my friends to do that.
You know, the funny thing is though, I don't trust all of my friends to do that. But I'm being realistic here. You have to understand. So all of us have got our own businesses that are our own, and that our name is put forward for, whether it be all of us could say that, yeah? Would we put our businesses with our names on the line for all of our friends? Or have we got friends that we would say, you know what, I would more do that with these group of friends or with these friends, but with that one, not so sure. And if you're not so sure, it means you can't value them all the same in that level
don't
of
value
trust.
your friends the same.
But yeah, that's it. So my point is to say, I know for a fact there's some friends I could just close my eyes and say, you know what, I know they would do my name a justice. And there's some friends I would say, you know what, not so sure. I'd try and give them the opportunity if I could, but I wouldn't want to risk my name on it.
So
Does that make sense?
So let's make it relevant to you.
Yeah.
You get a gig.
I get a gig, yeah.
You can't go.
Yep.
You're busy. The missus told you ain't leaving the yard. It's our anniversary, no plane. We're all DJs.
Yep.
I need the money.
That don't mean nothing to me.
Hear me out. I need the money.
Wait. Say that again.
That don't mean nothing to me.
Just one second.
Hey,
You don't
don't
have to
mean
go
nothing
any
that your
further
friend
than your.
needs
That's
money.
it there.
That don't mean nothing to me.
But I've got to make the
As
scenario
your
on it.
friend, everybody in the room.
let me explain-
Wait. No, I have to pause him on that one.
No, go on.
Everybody in this room.
Yeah,
Let's
let me explain to you what I mean by that, yeah? As a DJ, we tend to rely a lot on business, word of mouth, repeat bookings. If, as my friend, I can't trust you're going to do a solid job for me, that might cut the line of income we may all have. So it's not about, oh, you need the money. Can you do the good job? That's what it comes down to, because you're doing it on my name, innit?
I'm a DJ.
No, not every DJ is good, bruv. You know, we all know this. Oh, that's like trying to say. Hold on. That's like trying to say everyone. That's like trying to say in your line of business, everyone who does what you do, bro. And I don't want to expose what you do. Everyone who does what you do is great. That's like saying in Tongo's line of business, everything he does in Citrus and Buddy's line of business. It's not the case, bruv. There are some people that you're going. If you had a job, if I had a gig, there are some people that I'm going to call first, second, third, and there will be some people that will be my last resort. Those that are my last resort may not be the people that I necessarily want to call.
But Wiley, sorry.
But wait, one thing.
It's not about the need for the money for my friend. Sorry.
I haven't messed up on you.
But right, so this is what I'm saying. That your point was you need the money. You needing money doesn't come into.
I was going to go through. I was going to say I need the money.
That's not a factor for me.
Citrus is the best DJ. Tongo's a little bit. If another job comes up that's more money than this job, Tongo's going to go and do that job.
Okay.
And Buddy, if a gal calls him on that day, you ain't seen him.
Okay.
Yeah. So we all have our strong points, but he's an okay DJ though. Yeah. If Buddy goes there, people are going to be popping. However, if the night before you meet some chick in the rave, next day he's out of commission. Me being somebody who hasn't failed you, I haven't flopped in a dance, but I'm your friend and I'm the one that needs the money.
Yep.
Are you not just going to say, you know what? Out of them, let me just...
Now, here's the thing. As someone who's not flopped me as a good DJ, I would do that. As someone who I can't trust to do the job, I can't do that.
No, but you know what?
That's what it comes down to.
So what I was going to say, which I have a problem with what you're saying, is sometimes it's risk management, isn't it? All right?
Yep.
And you're doing risk management at the level of just saying, ban that. Now me, if it was me, I'd probably turn and say, really? Booking you? Because obviously you need the thing at the moment and I want to help you and your family because you're my brethren. But you know what, on the side of that, I'm gonna also drag Tongo in. And you know, you can split the money or whatever, but I've now covered myself because he needs the money and Tongo's there anyway, so I know we're blessed.
As a DJ, I say,
what I mean?
nah, I'm not interested in that. Either I get the booking or I don't want the booking.
Your chest high?
No, yes, it is.
I need the money. Changing the variables.
But no.
I need work right now. Am I going to turn and say, someone turns and say to me, I got a £100 job. Am I going to say, nah. I'm worth 300.
Here's the thing though. My normal booking money is 300. So if you're coming with a £100 job, I'm not going to be saying, oh yeah, thank you, I need the money for £100 because I know my value. And it comes down to, do you know your value? Are you going to lower your value for less because you're trying to I'm trying
to earn money? I mean, I'm lost.
So let me frame it into, because you went into my world. Let me frame it into the removals world. I now say that I need a job to be done, but you know what? You need the money. I'm going to give you £100. The job is actually worth £1,000. Are you doing the job? And you would normally.
That's a ridiculous variable.
Okay, the job is worth £500.
It's still a ridiculous variable.
£300.
If you said to me there's a
£300.
All right, we'll be fair. If you said there was a job for £300,
yep.
All right, would I do it for 150? And I need the money.
No, I said £100. You need the money because you need my variable of £100, and I said my variable is 300 is what I would charge.
That's what is happening in real life.
£100.
Would you take the £100?
And I need the money. This is the only part you need to understand. If I don't need the money and I know to myself, well, I don't need your job like that because I can get another one, it's fine. And I'm not desperate for the money, then I'm not going to take it.
You would take the £100?
But if I need the money, of course I will.
You would take the money?
I would, okay. There are certain things that I would do according to it because I would turn and say to you, you're only getting a certain amount of hours. All right, you're only getting this amount of time because I'm not gonna send and say you've got the whole day for the £100. That doesn't work. All right, but
adding variables, yeah.
No, but if I need the money, then of course I'm gonna do it.
All right,
dear.
That was just a little warm up.
That was a little warm up. This man got me. It got very warm. Shouts out to DJ CJ who said he would take the booking. You know,
straight up.
All right, see,
not
true
me.
DJ.
Sorry.
If you need
let's
money,
do this.
Yes.
He's making too much money right now.
So I'm gonna quickly jump into. If you notice, there's a vacancy on the chair here. So we don't have a Rain to do Rain's roundup this week.
No, we don't.
We don't. But there is one story
Can't
that
we
has
do
been...
Wiley's wheel up?
You know what? I love that, you know? I love that.
You know what? Don't do that. Why not?
Wheel up, yes.
He's a DJ.
I love that.
Don't start the topic again, bruv. Don't do that. Yeah. So I got a friend. She's a woman. She don't bring people up. Rah. We've done that already, bruv.
I love that.
But no intro, yeah?
So, how many of you are aware about the incident with Jamie Carragher and the African Cup of Nations?
No
and
idea.
No
clue.
Give us a little.
So, long story short, because it's been dragging on for about a week and a bit now.
Yeah.
Liverpool played Man City, beat Man City 2-0. Mo Salah had an unbelievable game. They was talking about winning the Ballon d'Or.
Best player in the world.
And yeah, which is the best player in the world. The award for best footballer in the world.
So we're talking about football for people
Yes,
who are not.
exactly. Mo Salah being Egyptian. So Jamie Carragher made a comment and he said one of the reasons why Mo Salah would not win the Ballon d'Or or would have difficulty is because the AFCON is not recognised by voters as a major
It
tournament.
wasn't exactly word for word he said.
That's exactly what he said. I'm reading exactly what he said. It was not recognised by voters as a major tournament. He said, I think the problem with that is the fact he plays with Egypt. He's probably got, not playing in the major tournament as such, probably got more of a chance of winning Champions League, major tournament, etc., etc. Daniel Sturridge and Mika Richards turned around and then had a go at him and stressed, no, AFCON is a major tournament. And he's got a lot of flack from people all over the world, whether they be footballers or whatever, to say that his comments are dismissive of the African Cup of Nations. He was saying that the African Cup of Nations doesn't hold any highlights, that they're not any, it's not viewed highly, it's not prestigious.
It wasn't exactly what he was trying to say as he came out with an apology. Well, not even an apology. He refined his statement only last night on
Oh yeah, I saw it.
So he kind of refined it and said, you know what I mean, I understood what he was trying to say in the first place.
Elaborate what you understood then.
From my understanding of what and he kind of he said the same thing pretty much last night. Basically, it's where it's regarded in a sense of how highly it's regarded the tournament. You've got the World Cup, which is creme de la creme. That's the top trophy. Then you've kind of got the European Championships. You've got a lesser on the next step would probably be the Copa America, which is the Americans that do the South Americans that do their version of the European Cup. All right. And then after that, it would be there's the Asia Cups, there's the Gold Cup, and there's the AFCON, all right, which are to a degree they're viewed as a lesser
lower tiers.
Yeah, the lower tiers. So this is what he was trying to get at, to say the European and the Copa America are regardable. And one of the other reasons he stated in his statement was the Ballon d'Or is used to be known as the European best player, the Europe's best player. So it would be more favourable to a lot of the European players rather than the South Americans, the Africans, and anyone else around the world.
Just to be clear as well, that's talking about, it used to be the European Football of the Year. You could be from any background, but you played in Europe. It's now...
now it's changed. Yeah. So he said that they view it slightly different. And all he was trying to say is the view, and he said that Mo Salah would find it difficult because he's the biggest advocate at the moment, saying that Mo Salah deserves the Ballon d'Or. He's saying he deserves to get it, and African deserves to get it. But what he was saying was that it will be hard for him to get it because the AFCON isn't recognised as highly as the European Championship or as highly as the World Cup or as highly as the Copa America.
So as somebody who's not a football head, and I will put this out there, listening to this from an outside view of football, first of all, I would say, I think, without even knowing the full story and knowing how the grading of football and everything, I think that's a disrespectful statement to make. And the reason why I would say that as somebody who's not in football is, A, are we talking value of football, as in physical money? B, are we talking about his skill as a player? Because it doesn't matter, to me anyway, it doesn't matter if you play in the World Cup or if you play five-a-side football. If you are the best in that and you've progressed the best in that arena that you're in, he doesn't play for the World Cup. So it doesn't matter if... It does.
It means you're not being challenged. It means that you're
But
you're
listen
not
to what I
playing with the
said.
best.
Listen to what I said, though. In that arena that you're in.
No. There's the best basketballer on this planet doesn't play in the NBA. Are they recognised?
Well, globally they won't be, but
They won't
that
be
doesn't mean...
recognised. If you don't play in the NBA, nobody's going to sit there and say to you that you're the best basketballer on the planet.
That's not...
So, all right, wait, hold on.
Name me the best basketballer on the planet ever.
All right.
Give me a top 20
Let's do it this way then. Let's do it this way. Who's the best boxer?
At the moment?
Yeah.
Probably Terence Crawford. He's pound for pound.
Worldwide, just saying...
Pound for pound, Terence Crawford.
How many people do you think you would meet in public and say that name to them and they would know who you're talking about?
There's quite a few that would know, but Terence Crawford he's not as well known as probably Canelo Alvarez, who's more of a face of boxing.
And that's the point I'm making. So the environment or the circle that you're in, you can only be as good or you can only be as public or as popular as the environment that you're in, the crowd that's around you. It's same thing with women's football.
Right. So the issue really wasn't even so much the comments he made. It was the way that he made his face and a certain way that he was behaving when he was making these comments.
Like disgusted.
And what it was, it stank of colonialism. The colonialism idea that anything from those regions cannot be viewed as anything good.
So I didn't see it. So give me.
Right. So what happened
wait.
was when Mika Richards and Daniel Sturridge, two black former footballers, pundits now, who had said, actually, the AFCON is a major tournament. And he said, just to correct you, AFCON is a major tournament, etc., etc. He made his face like that. Like that. Really, very dismissive.
Really?
Now the issue was, it wasn't so much more about just what he said, because you can be clumsy. And he said he said in his apology, in his statement, that he was clumsy with what he was saying. Yeah. But it's not so much just about what you say; it's about how you say something. If I apologize and my apology does not look sincere, my apology is just words. The fact of the matter was, it wasn't just the words of what he said; it was also how it was conveyed across. And the problem with it was that it was, like I say, it stank of like a colonialism idea of Britain is here, everyone else is below.
No, I disagree.
But the problem is, sorry, just to close on that, you can't say no, it wasn't, because the African footballers who took offence, that is what they said.
But I have a quick question.
Go on.
In regards to the Ballon d'Or, or what you're talking about, what is the relevance of AFCON and Mo Salah anyway?
Right. Mo Salah plays for Egypt.
Yep.
The point being is, Jamie Carragher's view was that the reason why he may struggle to win the World Player of the Year is because he plays for Egypt, who won't win the World Cup, and he plays in the AFCON. His words actually were, Egypt don't play in any major tournaments.
Okay, right. But
totally dismissing the African Cup of Nations.
Right, but why? So he plays in the African Cup of Nations. Is he the best player in the African?
He's one of the best, yeah.
Is he the top goal scorer?
He's one of the best players.
I know that, but I mean, is he the top player?
He is the best player.
He's
He's been voted the best African player.
He is
So that's
consistently one of the best players in that tournament. He is consistently one of the best players from Africa.
Him and AFCON. Okay, that's what I'm trying to understand.
Consistently. So, but the point.
I wanted to say something.
Go on.
If Jamie Carragher was a black man saying that, would there be so much outrage? Because I still don't think his statement was entirely incorrect. I mean, like I said, he clumsily put it out there, and the way it was put out and facial expression, I'm like, that looks a bit messy. And to be honest with you, shouldn't be something that you're saying, and that's more what I would probably say. But
he said it's on international TV.
Yeah, it was Sky. But then on the other side of it, all right, it was more a case of what he said. How wrong was he? The standard of football between how many people can win the European Cup and the World Cup, obviously. Even to a lesser degree, even the Copa America, the standard of football is totally different to say, for example, the AFCON and the African nations. You've got probably about 3 or 4 African teams, African nations that are top, and then you've got the other ones that are medium, and then you've got the other ones that it's just like, well, they're taking part, and that's the way that they view it. Yeah, that's the way that they view it.
Who is they?
Well, that's the way it's been viewed, isn't it?
Who is the they?
All of
who?
The Western world, if you want to.
And there's your answer.
All right, would see it that way. Well, I'm only going to talk from the Western world because that's where we live, innit?
But I've got
to vocalize that side of it.
But that is the point that is being made by many people. That yes, it's being said by the Western world, which is a colonial world.
But then who votes the Ballon d'Or?
Everybody.
It's the same Western world, which is what the point is, that they're not going to view it as any different because the people that are doing the votes, sort of the main people that do the votes, are all westernized, and they are only seeing it the same way that he just made it, which was his point. And that's all I was saying. I don't disagree with his actual point.
But if he's in a point of power, he should then be helping to then elevate it to make it be seen.
It's not. He's not in a position of power to do anything.
Well, he is, because if he's on Sky and he's
making those comments.
That kind of, you're making that kind of comment.
But right, there's loads of things wrong with the African Nations is usually held in the middle of a season.
There's nothing wrong with that.
In January, because all the other teams are still playing, so it's not focused upon how the European Championship is and how the World Cup is and even how the Copa America is when it's played out of season, where everybody's focus will be more on saying, well, there's no football. We're not watching club football. We're going to watch them. They're not being taken from their teams, and everybody's sitting there going, I can't wait till the African players that we've got in our team, the Mo Salahs, are coming back to our team because he's now missing for the next 3 to 4 weeks. So we just want him to get knocked out. Right. As soon as you get knocked out, you can come back home. Like, that's the way they see it.
I don't want to elongate this conversation, but I do need to correct you with something. And someone's actually said my point in the comments as well, which is that the last World Cup was played in Qatar. That was played mid-season.
But they cut off the whole season.
And the reason why it was played mid-season was because of the temperature in that country was so hot in any other time of the year. What we're now expecting is that from what you're saying, the reason why people would have an issue with it is that the Western world should dictate to African countries where temperatures will be above 30 degrees come the summertime to say, you know what? Make the players play in unplayable conditions so our season can continue with these players playing in them.
Or you do exactly what happened in Qatar. They cut the whole season. Everybody's season was cut.
This is the point, is that it is not valued or respected as much. So the point that people are taking issue with is that it is a colonial viewpoint. That is the issue people have. It comes across like a colonial view, and that is where you got Real Ferdinand, you got JJ Okocha, you got John Obi Mikel. They've said a lot of harsh things about Carragher, but ultimately, I totally agree with their points. And people, like some of the comments, people are even saying it, ignorance, very high. Ignorance is bliss, but it
was clumsy, but
I don't think it was clumsy.
The point was made.
I don't think it was
and I don't think it, like, if you go back a few years, where, and even in the Copa America used to only have two teams that could win it. It was either Argentina or it was Brazil. In I suppose in the European eyes, it was like those were the two big teams. Or you had Uruguay there. You had Chile wasn't really even about doing anything much then. So it was on Colombia wasn't doing much either. All right. So you looked at it was Brazil and Argentina. So it wasn't really. There was a lot of like. There's no competition there. So when you look at the AFCON, the AFCON's grown. It's got a lot better and it's got a lot more publicised. But it's still not where the European Championships is, the World Cup, or even the Copa America is.
But then this is the ignorance, because you've just displayed exactly the ignorance that we're talking about, because Chile won it twice in a row, Colombia won it a couple of times, and Uruguay won it a couple of times. And I'm not talking like recently, I'm talking over a long period of time.
Yeah,
but the viewpoint of the Western world is that it is only those two countries. But that's sort of the viewpoint of that culture, which slides right into the topic for this week. This is the eMpTy podcast. My name is Mr. Wileycat DJ, and to my left we have
Sirelli, ever so slightly broken.
And across the way we have
Citrus City, yeah.
we got a city added onto it. And next to him we have,
Man like Tongo, you're done now in the building.
and last but not least we have
Buddy in the building, aka the real truth. I had to say something because I don't know
why are you adding the real truth?
Because I don't know what was going on while I was away.
Wow.
I spent a little moment away and it just went to freaking tits, but it's okay.
Wow.
So it went to tits.
You know?
Oh my God, bro.
Shouts out to Miss Truth, who was here and was an amazing guest, had a lot of truthful comments.
Absolutely.
Very truthful comments.
Enough people want to be teachers now.
Exactly. But this week's podcast is entitled, Does Black British Culture Exist? Does it exist? So, quick question, Rand, just as a starter. What do you view as Black British culture? Anybody who wants to jump in? Tongo.
Ska music.
Ska music. Mm-hmm. Why ska music?
Because that is black music that started outside of Africa, America, and the Caribbean.
Interesting.
No, that's really a good point, because when a lot of the people came over from different parts of the world, in particular the Caribbean with their Windrush, they almost had to build their own communities, their own identity. And then the first generation brought over a lot of the culture with them. I mean, a lot of the musicians brought guitars with them on the ships and stuff like that. So they carried it over. However, when you came over to like the first generation of...
When they integrated with reggae and punk and rock.
It combines Caribbean rhythms and American jazz and rhythm and blues, known for its offbeat guitar rhythms, prominent horn sections, and infectious melodies. And one of the most prominent groups that performed ska was Madness.
Yeah.
7-piece outfit from Camden, who launched their recording career with a tribute to the Jamaican ska legend Prince Buster.
So that generation of migrants who were born here, the first kind of, black-born British people, they just adopted it and made it their own. They made something for themselves. And
Ska.
it was identified.
And then you've got Lovers Rock. That's another indication. But not to make it all about music. Do you get what I mean? However, if I sit back and close my eyes and think about it, definitely Lovers Rock. Then you've got jungle music over drum and bass. Do you get what I mean? Even though you have drum and bass, you have ska, you have
Grime.
as I said, yeah, I suppose when if you go down
Evolve
the
it a
time,
bit more,
yeah,
yeah.
down the timeline, but there are
Dub.
and dub, yeah, definitely dub. But there's when I think of Black British culture, it's the
Black guy with a Cockney accent.
for me it's the migration from Africa and the Caribbean into the UK, and then what individualized ourselves at that point,
Okay.
which then made when we went back to our original countries, you're then being referred to as English. Do you get what I mean? Or foreign. So so in my head, when I close my eyes and I think of Black British culture, I think of things like roll up jeans,
Yes.
with diamond socks and wallabies, rangers, ballets. You know that when I think of Black British culture, I can view Black Britain and see this as an image. If I step back into the late 90s, early 90s, late 80s, that's what comes to mind.
Tongo, you were about to say something.
Honestly, I do believe it exists, and I feel like it exists musically in our dress codes, like how we dress, how we talk. The fact that when you watch films, they have characters that they need to have a British accent, or like to know it's it's affluent, that we know. You can recognise if a person's like this, they're from Britain, they're from English. Do you know what I mean? American man, although they talk English, if they spoke to try to be British in a film, and it wasn't done with the right accent or the right dialect or the right words, look how, for example, Drake's jumped on the grime, and how worldwide they've jumped on things like Top Boy, and its mannerism and how it how they talk and how it, like, you know, about with the fam and all that stuff. It's definitely got a prominent place that is recognised around the world, that there's a Black British culture.
Okay, interesting. You know, I wanted to jump onto what Citrus said about the music thing. I don't, and this is going to be a bit controversial, I guess. I don't think I would class ska or even Lovers Rock maybe, but ska as Black British. And I say that in the sense of, I say that in the sense of being born out of the country. It's a offshoot, if that makes sense, of something that already exists. But actually being born from here is where I'm looking at it as not necessarily. I'm more, maybe
So
my
Silly
view is
Games
more,
to you is
sorry?
Silly Games by...
No, that's
not
so
ska.
the thing is,
I'm not
Lovers
saying
Rock.
ska, I'm saying the fact of the music from being
right.
from here.
So Lovers Rock for me, it wasn't reggae. It derived from reggae, but it wasn't necessarily reggae. Grime for me is totally born from this country. Jungle is totally born, even though jungle is and drum and bass is born. It's, you could say it's got the reggae bits to it. I think you would say nowhere else in the world would you say you would hear grime when it started. Nowhere else in the world would you say you would hear jungle
Or garage.
or garage.
Or ska.
But ska is still like an offshoot of something that already existed. Is my view.
I thought
But
ska.
that's just my
I actually
view.
thought ska
I may be
music
wrong, but that's just my view.
offshoots, though. Like there's a very similar, and I cannot remember it for the life of me. I might look it up, but there's a very similar type of music that comes from Brazil, which sounds very much to the beat section of garage. But you wouldn't then say, oh, actually, you know, it derived from that part of the world. It was just, all music has a foundation somewhere, doesn't it? And then you take it, you manipulate it, you speed it up, you slow it down, you add more beats to make it yours. You tailor it to your taste. And then once that becomes your taste and people adopt it in that element of that era, I'll give you a perfect example. Soca music is across the Caribbean.
Yes.
However, each island has got their style on it. St. Lucia has Dennery segment. Grenada
Grenada has jab.
As jab. So it's still based on
Of a song, yeah.
of the foundation being soca, but each area has taken it, adapted it to their liking and taste, and put their spin on it. So I understand what you're saying about the offshoots, but in essence, that's all music.
That's true. Fair point. Buddy,
Well, I mean, what's the question?
Black British culture. What would you does it exist? What do you say it is?
I mean, obviously, you've gone through the musical side of things. I'm sitting there. What other things would there be other than music? And that was what was going through my head. I was thinking, come away from music. Like, why are we constantly talking about the music?
I'll give you help. If I came from the US, you didn't know me, I was a family member, and I came to you to see you in the UK, and I said to you, yeah, I've come to London to experience London. What would you show me? And I'm not talking about taking me to Buckingham Palace.
Sightseeing.
I ain't talking about that. What would you show? What would you show me about London that is A, special to you, and B, I suppose you're proud of? Because that's what we're saying, isn't it? We're saying Black British, what we're proud of, what's around us. You're not taking them down, well, you may take them down Dalston now because Dalston's safe. But, do you know what I mean? Dalston 15 years ago, they come down there with their American brand new trainers. They're going home bare feet. But, do you know what I mean? It's that.
I mean, you say that. I'm thinking, what would I show them? I mean, I'd take them out to a club. But it depends what they're liking. And if it's you, I'd be like, oh, we got a club in, I'll take you out to a decent meal, tell you certain Caribbean spots to hit.
So you take me to a Caribbean spot?
Yeah, I'll probably take you Caribbean stuff. There's nowadays there's a lot of African spots. So a lot of even the people that live in this country don't actually go and try them out because they're like, oh, they're not sure. And I'm thinking a lot of them are really nice. I mean, I've tried them myself. Like it's quite nice. And I'm like, well, I'll take you to a couple cultural spots like that. But I don't know. What else would I really do? I don't know. I don't think it's when you say Black British culture.
That is Black British. Black British.
I mean, Grime's a good one. I mean, that was when we was growing up.
Okay.
I would in my head I was trying to go further, and when you said Lovers Rock, I was going through Lovers Rock shows in my head, and I was thinking, like you said, it comes from reggae. I was like, I don't know. I'm not too sure. So when you now say it, I'm thinking, well, is there a Black British culture?
Citrus, you was about to jump right in.
There's loads of Black British culture. It's just how cultured you are as an individual.
Jeez.
It's true.
Raw.
So no. Wiley's cousin makes clothes.
Wale Adeyemi, for those that don't know.
Yeah,
Trust me.
he makes
MBE.
he makes clothes, and people all over the world contact him to get his style of clothes, of sort of wear, I should say, you know. And he's taken the fusion of prints, of styles, do you know what I mean, and his own spin, and that's Black British culture. We have actors like John Boyega.
Yep.
Is that how
Yes,
you pronounce his
yes.
surname? Do you know what I mean? You've got Idris Elba. There's loads of successful black male and female actors. You've got, you know, one of the most successful British exports in musical history of Sade.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean? This is also under the remit of Black British culture. You
Seal.
have, sorry,
Seal.
you have Seal. You have
Sunday. There's got a few black people.
Dougie Fresh. Do you get what I mean?
Yes. Wow, yeah. For real.
So, and what's the other rapper's name? I always forget his name.
Slick Rick.
And
But-
Slick Rick.
But Slick Rick isn't.
Born, moved,
Yes.
born.
Yeah.
But regardless, at the end of the day, if Black Britain wasn't involved in the process, these things don't continue. You've got fantastic black inventors. Do you know what I mean? And I include myself in this. If we're not looking or absorbing or taking in the culture, then how are we going to know about it to share? And what I think are the things that we should celebrate are things like, and you know, like it or not, it is what it is. The internet has opened the world up.
Yeah.
And like it or not, a lot of people around the world view England as a Mecca spot. Right, and what I mean when I say a Mecca spot is somewhere that they either need to be or need to be at or need to understand. And with the idea of this Mecca spot of shopping in London or, do you know what I mean, eating or going to see Buckingham Palace, whatever the case is, with that, more focus, this is my belief in a way, but more focus comes into the UK. There is a lot more focus. How that focus is being channeled and how the Black British culture is adopting that focus and utilizing it. I don't know.
So is it more like there's a black English culture? Because we don't talk about black people in Scotland, black people in Wales, black people in Northern Ireland in the same vein.
I think
it
it's
seems
just
to
an
be
easy way
very
to- it's an easy way to
London-centric.
I think it's an easy way to segregate. Do you get what I mean? I think
I agree.
just try and find a way of bonding. Do you know what I mean? Together, and then you look where and where I suppose it becomes more relevant is when you look at Britain from the eyes of someone that's overseas. So when you go on holiday and you turn the telly on and you see Stormzy, or like when I went to St. Lucia and what's the guy who sung the song got whatever this guy's name is.
Comedian. I've forgotten his
Yeah.
name there. Michael Dapper?
There is a flipping soca version. There's a calypso version. There's a version on compa. Do you know what I mean? I was like, what is going on? However,
Wait, if it's St. Lucia, there'll be a country and western version as well.
probably a country western version, isn't it? Slow it down. But the thing goes. But you get it. At the end of the day, these are the things of where you have to say this is British. As much as it's comedic, it's British culture, which is slowly making waves. It's slowly rippling out. The one thing that I would say to Black Britons is don't be hard on yourself. You are still very young as a movement. Do you know what I mean? Because the movement only started making ripples, I would say, in the 60s. People were here in the 50s, partially in the 60s, but the 60s when the movement started. And if you then think that was what, 60, 70 years ago? It's not that long ago. Well, 60s, that's 60 years ago, isn't it?
Yeah, I was about to say, I don't know if it's not a case of it hasn't been that long. I think it hasn't been long that they've been recognized.
No, but you also have to think, how many Black Britons are there, period?
But even, so what I mean by that is, now, and you made an absolutely amazing point when you said the internet has made things accessible to everyone. So you go to somewhere like China, and pound for pound, more people have had number ones in China than any other country. There are people who you've never heard of from the UK who've had the number one in China.
Sorry, can I pause you? So one of my customers, I did a removal job. This young mixed race girl lives down in Central, but in Chelsea. I was moving. I'm like, why are you moving? She was like, oh, I'm not moving. I'm just putting my stuff in storage. I was like, why? What's going on? I'm going to China. I was like, oh, that must be nice. She was like, I know it sounds crazy, but
I'm banging at it.
triple platinum in China. I said, are you being for real? She said, yeah, my music's on computer games and on TV adverts. So I'm now going for a tour there. I don't speak a word of Chinese. However, it appeared on one computer game, and because it was on this computer game that only for some reason blew up in China, she said there's no point her being here, working a normal 9 to 5, where she can go on tour.
She's a celebrity out there.
Massive celebrity out there. And I was like, oh, I mean, okay. Do you know what I mean? I didn't know where to go with it. However, very valid point.
Black Star has made a comment. He said, Black British culture is incorporating Africans and Caribbeans, enjoying English cuisines and singing Sweet Caroline. Basically, the Commonwealth nations adapting what is British to our taste. So that ties me right into the question of...
Who is Anthony Joshua?
Ties me right into the question of, are African and Caribbean cultures taking over the UK? And I asked the question because when I was growing up, and I'll say West African culture, Caribbean culture, I believe in the UK is about a generation ahead of West African culture. There were
Maybe
there wasn't
maybe two.
maybe two.
generations.
Because if you
Okay.
think about it, when I was going to school, the children of people that had come here were the parents of my friends.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yeah.
Whereas my parents were the first generation coming in. So that was, and we're now seeing a lot of the second generation, third generation from West Africa.
So can I ask a question?
Go on.
When did they come, roughly?
My mum and dad came over about 65, 66, around 71.
Right. Okay.
Yeah,
Somewhere
around
in that
period.
region. Yeah. So at that time, there were Caribbean babies being born in the
Exactly.
UK. Yeah,
Exactly.
Okay. All right.
Exactly.
So my mum would have fallen into that kind of, a little bit earlier than that, but she would have fallen into that bracket, you know.
So she was
60s.
born.
She was born here.
So she was born here whilst Wiley's parents were migrating.
absolutely.
Coming over here. So
Absolutely.
your grandparents were already here, is the point.
Already here,
Yes.
absolutely.
So the reason I'm asking
Sorry,
that.
Wiley.
Go on.
Roughly when would you say they came?
I would say
Just roughly.
they came 50s,
Right. Okay.
late 50s.
Late 50s. All right. So go on, Wiley.
The reason why I'm asking that, so I recognise that when I was growing up, I don't want to. I would say African culture, because African culture encapsulates South African, West African, Northern African, East African. That culture was not as vibrant as
all
it
of
is
the
now.
AFCON, all the AFCON places, yeah?
Yes, now, yeah, exactly. Now,
Right. All of a sudden, buddy's just like grimace.
now,
Baffed.
now, what's happening is that like, and I think Buddy touched on it. Like, there's all these restaurants about. There weren't restaurants about when I was growing up. There was, and shouts out to Yum Yums that was in Hackney, and
There was kitchens.
Yes, Oberlin. So there was takeaway places,
Kitchens.
but there wasn't restaurants. Now you're seeing restaurants. Now you're seeing the music is fusing into everything. As much as I will be hearing in a song Wagwan, I'll be hearing Wahala. And there's no second guessing with anyone to say, oh, what does that mean? So my point being, it's so integrated into the culture now, it's second nature. But is that now taking over the culture of the country to say that the fashionable cultures? If you think back to the late 90s, look at you, this man sitting up, the late 90s and the late 80s, early 90s, Caribbean culture, reggae music, dancehall, it was the hype thing at the time.
What, cartini trousers and...
Yeah, which led on to, and we was talking about it earlier, jungle, drum and bass. All these things came from a fusion
House.
of house and garage, came from a fusion of dancehall. We're now seeing that with Afrobeats. Afrobeats is now fusing into house and everything else. You now have Amapiano coming from South Africa, and that's now a big thing over here. Is that culture of Caribbean culture and African culture now taking the reins of what is popular?
I think the UK, one of the UK's kind of blossoming things about the UK is that it's a melting pot in it. It has, where we're specifically talking about black British culture.
Yes.
But that also, if you you widen the pot a bit, you're also talking about the Indians that came over and the Pakistanis and that kind of thing. And I mean, when was it? In the 90s, we had that song, ding, 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 ding. And
Yes, that Jay-Z then took on. And
yeah,
yes.
so it's sorry, I don't know what the song was called. So, but as soon as I did that, everybody knew Wagwan. Jay's busting up over there. But it's the way that once something gets exposed to the UK, it transforms into something else. It just organically grows into something else. Like each of us here could say there is a mix or an Indian song that they've heard that is banging. They can hear it in a club.
Asian song.
An Asian song, thank you very much.
Mandian to back care.
Thank you very much.
Bless you.
All of that.
Yeah.
All of that. What is it?
I went to a rave and they were playing some Turkish music and it was absolutely, and I've heard it a couple times in a couple places and I'm like, rah, this thing is banging. Same way you can go out and hear Hispanic or Spanish music that has got an English twist to it and whatnot. So I don't know if that is what, you know, the UK going out to all these countries and colonizing all these places and bringing all this thing back has caused that they've almost created I don't even like a mutant kind of culture within the island
I think
itself.
the best word you said was melting pot.
Yeah,
Because it's exactly that.
It's
Exactly
so many
that.
different things that, I mean, we've got fusion of absolutely everything. Asian fusion, West Indian fusion, Turkish fusion. There is such a, like the plethora of food and taste buds. If you want to go out and say, yeah, you know what, I want to try something, but I don't necessarily want, the amount of things that are out there for you to actually try in the UK, it's unreal.
Tongo.
I was gonna say, I don't think that we've taken over as such, because I think Britain in this culture was always
Resistance is
be Britain.
futile.
However, I think we have made a big influence because we are appropriated by a lot of other cultures within England as well.
What do you mean by that?
So, if you look at cultures other than black cultures, they will appropriate our they appropriate our food, they appropriate our dress sense, they appropriate our music. Like before, if I went to a black rave, I wouldn't see no white people, and they wouldn't know the R&B songs, all the dancehall songs, all the dances. But now they do, and they're appropriating the hairstyles, they're appropriating the dress sense, they're appropriating the music, the food. They're learning to cook our food, like. But I still don't think that we've taken over, for want of a better word,
Quote unquote.
Yes.
white culture above their own culture. It's just that they've appropriated a lot of what we've now brought to them, and adopted with it.
Okay.
And rolled with
Can
it.
I ask a question? So, as you all know, in the UK, the black population makes up something like 1 or 2%. It's something marginal.
Yeah.
Do you think for the percentage
I
of...
think it's about 6 or 7.
I don't think it's that high now, you know?
It is.
Well,
3.7%.
yeah, it's really low. So
Okay,
3 point something percent.
3.7%. For the UK, if
Yeah.
you go with England, it's 4.2%. Scotland's 1.2%. Wales is 0.8%. Northern Ireland is 0.6%. But yeah, call it 3.7%.
Yeah, let's call it 4%, just to round it up. Do you think for that 4%,
You're batting way above your average.
this is what I'm saying. Thank you, my
We're
brother.
smashing it.
You're
Smashing it. The
for
influence
you
is
to
mad
be
high.
4% of something. If you drop in a
bucket of water,
a bottle of water, 4% of a dime,
alcohol, are you going to be caught drink driving?
brother. Do you see what I'm saying? So you have to, quote unquote, big up your chest and.
However, there are other things, and this is where I think we need to be. We need to be proud. Do you know what I mean? You need to be proud of your culture, proud of who you are, and proud of who we are and what's been achieved. Proud of the people before us, proud of the people that are coming through next. And part of it for me and Wiley, this is not me trying to take you in the wrong direction, but it's what's next for the culture, because the culture seems to be
Undervalued.
as really saying it's now being monetized outside of the black community, which, like it or not, if you're not going to do it, someone else is going to do it.
But isn't that what happens with every successful
Only
thing?
if you do not take the reins of, shout goes out to Rayman, but only if you do not take the reins of what it is that you're
Of
delivering,
ownership,
or ownership.
effectively, yeah.
Look at the hair industry.
But
Look at Tropical Sun.
explain.
So
Explain. So go on.
So we spoke a few podcasts ago about the brilliance of Crepton Conan in opening up the
Supermarket.
Yeah.
only to then find out, in accordance with Companies House, that they own 2%, if that, of said supermarket. However, it was marketed off the back of, these 2 young, successful musicians who are going to do an advertising strategy encouraging the black community to come and support, because that's what it's all about. But actually, they weren't the main proprietor. Do you get what I mean?
But does that and I get what you're saying, but does that
So
matter
that's
if they've got
appropriate, but that's appropriating the black community, rightly or wrongly. The person who owned the 98%, Mr. I don't know what his name is, Asian gentleman. I think he was Asian. He might be Turkish. I'm not sure. But this gentleman basically saw an opportunity, found a way to exploit, got someone to stand in front and take the ground, and they ran with it. It's only due to your, I don't know, someone said to me it was because of Black Twitter, but you know what I mean? They went on Companies House and then that was it. It became a little bit of a farce.
So they actually own 25% of the supermarket. They own 25% of it.
Not in accordance to Companies House.
They initially faced criticism when it was announced they owned 4%, but they responded by reminding critics they had a bigger plan in motion, and they have now got, I don't know if it's now, as of February 2025, they own 25% of Safeways.
So do you reckon it, sorry Tongo, but do you reckon it, after the backlash, it was like,
Hell yeah.
Well,
you're
they
gonna have to slap me back.
Well, they said that they said something along the lines of they had a plan in place to get more anyway. So it is
More
claimed, so.
percentage.
Yes.
Wally,
So it said.
Wally,
So
producer wants to say something.
If your face don't fit, sometimes you need to get a face to represent you.
in that regard, but the producer and can we hear the producer?
No, that's what the
That's
producer
right.
was saying.
Oh, sorry.
saying.
What was that? Sorry.
What I was gonna say, what since you started about Tropical Sun, the thing about Tropical Sun has been marketed as a Caribbean
Product.
product that originated from the Caribbean, whereas it's been found there's actually Asians that created and own Tropical Sun and have infiltrated it into the Caribbean community as a Caribbean seasoning and brand.
But that also goes down for how many, my favorite beverage, rum. How many rum
Companies are not owned by black
companies
people.
are not owned by black people? How many? Do you know what I mean? And,
Not even distilled in the Caribbean.
But,
but to stay back on topic, to say about black British culture, I don't think of like my children, and I'm going to talk about my son. He's 7, and he adores Bukayo Saka. Do you know what I mean? That's who he adores. That's his guy. Now, growing up, my guy was John Barnes, but that was all of our guys because we didn't have
Any other guys?
another
group
guy.
of-
Until Ian Wright came on.
Yes, that's a fair point.
Garth Brooks.
But
That's
this was do you know what I mean? Wasn't in the same scale. So, but now when I think about it, you've got your Bukayo Sakas, you've got Jude Bellingham. Do you know what I mean? You've got all of these up and coming younger names that the young black people are growing up looking towards. Like when I grow up, I want to be like him. And you can want to be like him, and you can be like him, or you can be like her, or her, or her, or whatever the case is. And we're not all talking about the same person. It's not one icon, if
That
you
we're
get
all
what I
following.
mean. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So when I'm saying that, as Sirelli said, the 4%, the inroads are huge. And you have to keep building on those inroads. So when Tongo spoke about music and saying, oh no, it does have a tribal beat in the background, or that sounds like bongo drums, or that sounds like, do you know what I mean? A rhythm from the Congo in the background. Do you get what I'm saying? You have to turn around and say, do you know what? Let's use that. Let's take it and let's run with it and let's believe in it. However, let's also have the conversation where it's not based around entertainment.
I'll tell you what I find is what I like about, and you mentioned Bukayo Saka, and I think it's good. What I like about that is the fact, as a British-born Nigerian, I like the fact that he hasn't had to compromise on his name. Because one of the things that, as someone who was born here in an age where people couldn't pronounce, my name is very simple to pronounce. Wale is very simple to pronounce, but it's not spelled as it is pronounced. But you got to take the time to learn to pronounce it. That time to learn to pronounce names was not given in the era that I was growing up. What I like about the world now that we live in this country is that people are being, I don't want to say they're taking the time, I think people are being forced into having to learn to pronounce names they necessarily wouldn't do before. Because the culture, to bring it back to how the culture is all around you. You can't plead ignorance if you may know a Oluwafemi, you may know a Kwame, you may know somebody with these names, and you can't say, oh, I'm going to call you K, or I'm going to call you Fems. You have to call them by their given name, and there is no excuse for not doing that. I like the fact that Bukayo Saka hasn't had to try and compromise on his name, and I may have issues that he's not playing for Nigeria, but that's my own personal take. But my issue really is that someone like that can be viewed by other people born from Nigerian parentage and West African parentage and South African, North African, wherever, to say that guy's an icon. Actually, he hasn't had to compromise himself, and he's still eating pounded jam. He's still going Nigeria. He's not hiding his culture. Whereas if you go back about 20 or so years, a lot of people were trying to hide their original culture, which I think is great. I think it's great, personally.
Someone said to me that people that listen to operatic music learnt the names, and sorry, it wasn't just operatic music, it was also gymnastics and synchronized swimming
and stuff, yeah.
and all these different sports, you learnt the names of them Russian divers. Do you know what I mean? They weren't the easiest to roll off the tongue, but you learnt them names. Do you get what I mean? So if you're willing to do that, what's the difference? So I will use my whole name. You know, I wasn't blessed with having a traditional name from the motherland. I got 3 typical English names. Do you know what I mean? White English names. But for those that don't, wear it with pride. Do you get what I mean?
So that sort of ties on to my other question, which is, with Black British culture being, and it's sort of a merger of 2 questions, but I don't want to go into this. In fact, I'll start with the second question first, actually. So in America, we look at Black Americans, and we say that they don't have a culture with a back home, if that makes sense, because a lot of them came from the slave generation. The tie only goes back as far as when they first came into the country. Whereas with those of us born over here, we can trace our roots back to our grandparents, great-grandparents, to the Caribbean islands, to the African nations, to wherever it is we came from. Do you think, though, with the generations going forward, we're going to become more and more like the US, where the ties to back home are going to become less and less and less, and the Black British culture will become more and more and more?
I think it might be the opposite, because as Citrus and yourself have pointed out, there is money to be earned, there's wealth to be earned, and there's also lessons to be learned from that. So people are now more interested into it. So one of the things that I've personally done, I did one of those Ancestry tests to find out about my lineage, my heritage and stuff like that, because I'm from the Caribbean. Now, as we know, 99% of the people that are in the Caribbean, obviously we have the Arawaks and Caribs that were there originally, but a lot of the people have been brought over through slavery. So me looking into that has now given me a curiosity about my history. It's made me want to know more about Africa. It was it says I'm part Benin, I'm part Nigerian. So now, whereas...
Hey, my brother.
Come on now. So I'm embarrassed to say...
That chair was weird.
That was
Yeah.
Just
straight up.
How high was the percentage?
Poundage jump.
Do you remember
I can't
how?
remember what the exact percentages are. But whenever I used to go on holiday, I used to go to all the other continents. I mean, I've gone Far Asia, I've gone America, I haven't gone South America. But Africa, it wasn't ever somewhere that I had...
You have been South
No,
America.
it wasn't something...
You have been South America.
Listen to what I'm saying.
Go on.
When I haven't gone to Africa to like the motherland. I've been to like Tunisia and stuff like that, but for me, that's still not
Northern Africa.
It's not Northern Africa. It's not Middle Africa. It's not tribals. It's not about the culture that I can go and investigate and say, okay, this is where people from the slave ships were taken, and those kind of museums that you go to and you can see where they actually have the prisons.
I'm not interested in that.
I am.
Do you know what I would like to find out? So, for example, let's pick something universal. Dumplings, right? I know it sounds basic. Dumpling is in our culture, right? The 5 places that we're all from, we all make dumpling. However, this was a food which is water and flour.
But you have to remember, a lot of our food comes from poverty.
British
So all our
culture
food,
also
no, hold on. A lot of our food are made from the fact that these were the scraps and we made it into something, into this delicacies. Come on, let's be honest.
But wait, before you change. So with dumpling, for example, why are our dumplings round and your dumplings long? Why are our dumplings big and flat and your dumplings are round like a tennis ball? Do you get? But if you start looking back culturally,
there's a trail that you can connect the dots. Yeah.
There's a trail where this comes from, And one of the most beautiful and most narrated stories is the path of the Maroons. Where when they left Ghana and then they made it over to Haiti and they made it over to Jamaica. Do you get what I mean? And then they ran into the flipping forest and it was like, if you want us, come and get us. And then when they tried to come and get them, they got slaughtered. Do you get what I mean? So there's there's a lot more than just to say, well, I'm black in it, and the slave ships, but the slave ships were 400 years ago, 300 years ago. So what? Do you know what I mean? Our culture are tens of thousands of years old. Let me go and find out a little bit more than retrospectively the 4% or last week.
You know what the funny thing is? One thing that it almost mystified me, and it's along the lines of what you're talking about. So in St. Lucia, we have farin, and that's what it's called locally. I was a grown
what was that name?
Farin.
Farin.
We
call it farin.
And the thing is, my family from St. Lucia, and we call it furrin.
Now,
What is
I
it?
didn't know, and our resident African here is going to, I didn't know that this is something that is a staple part of an African diet. But it's not called that. It's called giri or...
Gary?
Is
it
Gary?
Gary.
So
What is
I
gari?
used to laugh when I was at school.
Gary is
It's,
cassava. It's grounded
cassava.
Grounded cassava.
At school, I used to laugh at my African friends who used
Eba,
to...
Gary, yeah.
Who ate Gary. I'm like, Gary, was that some pounded
Yep.
thing? But it's exactly the same thing that I was eating as a child.
I'll even trump you with that. So we was talking, and in fact, I think was we talking about fizzy sorrel over Christmas, yeah? Only for me to find out, and I've been drinking this for years, not knowing it was the same thing. Nigerian zobo is the same thing as sorrel.
That's it, yes.
It's the same thing.
Yeah,
It's from the hibiscus plant.
Hibiscus
But I
flower.
had no idea. We call it zobo. It's the same
Zobo.
thing. Exact same thing. And then you have to think to yourself, okay, did that transfer with the transatlantic slave trade, etc.? But to bring it back to the UK and British culture, one of the things that I'm always intrigued by is let's just say that we all have children that go forward and have kids. So as someone from two Nigerian parents, my kids now meet a person who's got who's a child from two St. Lucians. Yeah, they'll be half St. Lucian, half Nigerian. You then go down the tree again. They now meet somebody who's half Jamaican, half Ghanaian. They will then become somebody from 4 different countries. You go down again, it becomes 8 different countries. That melting pot. The reason why I asked about, do you then lose with the link back home? How do you navigate 8 different countries in that 3 or 4 generation move?
Now it's already happened.
Yeah.
It's already
The
happened.
dominant one just...
Sirelli literally just said he did his ancestry DNA and found there is 18 different variations of blood type. So, so what it comes down to is, as parents, guardians and mentors, it's our job to make sure we say to our children, let's take you back or take you to go and see, this is where your
You were
grandparents...
born here,
Yeah, but this is where your family's from. This is where your great-grandparents are from. This is where your great-great-grandparents are from. And no disrespect to you, Sirelli, I don't want to be saying to the children, and this is the slave ship that we got on. Do you know what I mean? Because I don't think that we should use that to define us. What I want to turn around and say is, actually, this is the royal family that we descended from. Do you know what I mean? This is the tribe that we should be... This is our tribal colours. This is our tribal wear. Do you know what I mean? These are the things that we can celebrate, rather than say, do you know what, this little bad thing that happened, and it weren't little, but this bad thing that happened defined us. No. It just played a part of a much bigger journey. But let's celebrate the greatness rather than focus on the negativity.
So on the point of what you're saying, I know Sirelli, myself, I believe Citrus, I'm not sure.
Yeah.
How many of us have got parents from the same country?
What do you mean? Both
As
sides?
in both sides, your mum and your dad are from the same country? Yeah. You have, okay. So Tongo, I take it you're the only one who's got parents from different countries, yeah?
Yep.
He's the half-breed.
You're rude, bro.
Very rude.
We apologise.
Do you keep...
You know what I mean?
Do you
Yes,
keep
come on.
do you keep contact with your family on both sides back home as strong, or does one dominate more than the other? Are you more in contact with one than the other?
So one dominates more than the other, but that's because I dominate more on my dad's side, but that's because over here, there's a lot of my dad's side here.
Okay.
So, and they are my generation of cousins, family. We've been into it with them from I was young, even though I'm the oldest in my generation. But yeah, integrated from when they was born, and we had childhoods together. So they're like my extended now brothers and sisters. But on top of that, they go back to Jamaica, back and forth almost every year. I've been a few times, but I haven't been to my mum's country, which is my mum's fault, just to be clear. Out in her bay face.
You're a big man.
And then on top of that,
Brother, you're going to be half a century soon.
and then on top of that,
Go on.
she didn't have much contact with them because they moved, some moved here, some are in Bristol, some moved to Canada, some moved to America. The ones that are actually in Guyana, she hasn't had the contact with them, so I don't even know who they are.
So, and you know what?
And then,
go on.
then the generations that would have helped with that, they've passed away quite many years ago. So to get that contact for who knows who they are or knows who they are well, it's just diminished.
And
But it's not impossible.
It's not impossible.
To
But
support.
we are planning to go there because it's my mum's, 70th this year.
Hey.
So at some point she wants to go there for that reason.
Tell her we're coming.
Indeed. Imagine. My point being though is I can resonate with what Tongo is saying. Not me personally. I've seen people who can resonate with it. In that there are people in my family who've never been back to Nigeria. Their parents didn't make and this
Sorry.
isn't.
Be
go on.
clear. When you say people have never been back to Nigeria,
They've
they've come from Nigeria,
all right, so
or they're born here?
There's some that were born here. There's some that were born in Nigeria and came as children. So they've
never gone back.
Never gone back.
Right, okay.
So there's two strands of it. Those that were born here, those that were born in Nigeria, came here as, let's say, toddlers or 2, 3, don't know anything about Nigeria.
Right.
The trouble is, and I can only say it more for Nigeria than it is for Ghana. And maybe for Ghana it's not this. It's the same sort of thing. You can't. It's difficult for someone who doesn't know the language, doesn't know the landscape, doesn't know that sort of environment to go back to a country and just be like, oh, hi, I'm cousin Wale. I want to meet you all. Because you don't, you know what I mean? You don't know nobody.
Sounds like something you did, blood.
Just say I bring this. Just say I bring this.
He came off the plane and stood on the runway. Didn't even go through customs yet. I'm cousin Wiley from England.
I'm here. But my point,
I bring gifts.
there you go. But my point being is that if you don't have that link, and this is when I go back to what Tongo's saying. When Tongo's saying about, I don't want to say it's his mum's fault. What I would say is that the link to Guyana was not continued. For Tongo to now go back and try and meet everybody who he needs to meet, they're going to look at it like, and it could even be like you go back, if you're meeting a sibling you've never met before, you're not going to suddenly develop a relationship with them. You don't have no relationship with them. So I'm going there, yes, we're blood, but we don't know each other. We don't know nothing about each other.
Over there, see, like over here, the generations have developed. So the ones that came to England or Canada or America or whatever have had children. We've integrated amongst ourselves. So even though I have cousins in America, we still communicate. I have my family in Canada, we still communicate. At least on my mum's side. And my aunts have children and we have integrated. But the people in Guyana, as far as I'm aware, they're of the older generation.
The ones that didn't
So they
leave,
are
innit?
fading fast if they're not faded already.
Yes.
And you have no connections with the youth of it. So
I don't know if there are youth of them.
now there will be, but it's just that
will
you,
be.
Yeah, but
you
you just don't know
I
the.
think the youth of them are also over here, but in Bristol. Because we got family in Bristol and Bath.
No, I totally hear that because I went to St. Lucia. Wow, it's
Last week?
two Christmases ago now. It felt like it was yesterday.
Yeah.
But when I got there, the family that I remember when I left there when I was young, they still remember me when we were talking everything. But as you say, they're now getting on. They're coming, they're becoming the elders of the family. And the younger generation, when the elders were like, oh, come over and say hi to your cousin and this and the other.
They're like, hi.
Yeah, they come in.
Show out the room.
And then they're gone. Because as far as they're concerned, I'm just some
Man from
Englishman
England.
who's...
You're a man from them, aren't you?
No, that makes perfect sense because, once again, if we do not work on building and maintaining the relationship, then how are we expecting it to form?
You go back every 4 or 5 years, you're just another guy, innit? And so I totally understand that. And I try to keep that connection going and I try to keep that, but and this is something I would admit and put my hands up, the stresses of the UK sometimes overpowers you because it's so easy to be in a group and say hi, 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 but then a week goes past and nobody says hi, and then the group goes quiet. And then 2 weeks go past and then something happens and you say hello, and they're on the other side, oh you remember me? And they're very much on my family, I can't talk for anyone else, but they're very much in the Caribbean. If you're out in the UK, there's money in the UK. So you must can send me some.
Yeah.
Even if it's not a lot, you must can send me something. When you've got 25 cousins all with that same attitude, you must can send me something. I would have to win the lottery to feed everybody a little drink here and a little drink there. And I understand because the Caribbean is expensive. When you're here and you go out there, you then learn how expensive things are. And one thing that's predominant in St. Lucia, and I can't talk for the rest of the Caribbean, they have, the internet is a blessing and a curse because they are now seeing these things that people are doing in the big cities, having jobs where they're influencers and that kind of stuff. And they're now taking us on board that I can do the same thing in the Caribbean. Now, the difference is in the Caribbean, you have a much smaller population. If I Google something, somebody from Dominica or Guyana or Nigeria is not going to come up on my feed as someone that I'm necessarily going to see and follow. So it means that their captured audience is much, much, much smaller. So you can't necessarily do the things that the job opportunities are not like they are here. Here, you can get paid good, well, handsomely for doing almost anything as long as you're good at it. It doesn't matter what. You could be sleeping. You could be a professional sleeper. I go to hotels and sleep on their bed and get paid for it. Do you know what I mean? But these are not the kind of opportunities that they have. So because of that, they struggle. They want to live that lifestyle. They see the fancy cars, they see the designer stuff, and they want those kind of things. I've got cousins in the Caribbean who are telling me to send them Canada Goose coats.
What?
Yeah.
Hey.
And I'm like...
Do you know that cost £1,000?
I'm like...
Not even that. Canada
forget,
Goose in
brother.
the Caribbean.
What do you need a Canada? Yeah, it gets cold in the morning. I'm like... The maths don't add up, but it makes perfect sense to them. Now, me as somebody from the UK, I'm like, you wear this thing when it's, 1 degree outside. You're
No,
talking about...
he didn't even work out the thing about the
The
heat.
temperature.
I'm thinking, what? Wait, the heat? All right, you know what? Let me leave you alone.
I do have a question.
Go on.
And I don't want to migrate forward, but it's
No,
a slight
fire
migration
away. Go
forward.
on.
So, if we were listening to 20-year-olds talk about Caribbean culture, black culture, black British culture, what kind of things would we hear?
All right.
Black tracksuit, Air Force One.
Listen, I find it, you'll find a mixture of what I find from my stepson who's now in his mid-20s. When he was in his early 20s, it was a mixture of Caribbean culture, West African culture, because those were the cultures that were
Thriving.
the thriving cultures at the time. We're going back into, let's call it about 5-6 years ago. That's how long ago. That culture then, it was thriving. I think there's other cultures now that have jumped into it. But if you was to ask those questions for now, we talk about the prominent people, Idris Elba's, the Skeptors, the Stormzy's, and they're very proud of what their culture, their heritage and culture is. Whereas it wasn't the case before. So I think that's what you're going to see, is that a lot of people, and it could be Caribbean children, it could be, I say Caribbean heritage is what I mean by that. It could be Caribbean heritage, it could be African heritage, it could even be, as has been said by Sirelli, Turkish heritage or Asian heritage. It's a melting pot. So everything is thrown in. So when you're asking what we'll be hearing, we will be hearing the Wahalas, we'll be hearing the Wagwan, but we'd also be hearing Turkish words, we'll also be hearing Asian words, we'll be hearing so many things thrown in because the culture has become one big melting pot, is what I believe. That's what I think you'd be getting.
So wouldn't you turn and say that it's British culture rather than Black British, which is what we've started this off as now? The reason why I wanted to say it is because I've been listening and I've been quiet for a long time, and I thought to myself, let me listen to what everyone's got to say and the things that they're saying. And it's great. You're going to turn and tell us about actors and Idris Elba and your John Bogers and all the rest of it. I'm listening. I'm thinking, that's great. That's nice. But why is it not just? It's British culture. Do you know what I mean? It's they've grown here. All right. They've taken things, and this is what I did get from the conversations that's being had. They've taken things from the Caribbean or from Africa, and they've made that they're a part of what they're going forward. But within their British society where they live, same thing with the Turkish people, same thing with the Asian people or the Indian people. They've all taken they've done they're taking their culture and they've mixed it in with their British side or the things that are happening within the country. Hence the creation of things like grime and other, like we said earlier on, Lovers Rock, etc., etc. All right, isn't it not now just British culture? Because where you've turned and said about the melting pot, you've also turned and have to realise to yourself, we do have loads of different cultures coming into this country, all right, and then afterwards we're all now breeding is the best word I can think of at the moment. But we're all breeding.
I was trying to call us dogs.
No, but we're breeding within that, all right. And then now you're going to turn and say you've got your. So for example, myself, I'm born over here. In fact, I feel like only one of us wasn't born over here in this country. So we're now effectively from this country. If we're now going to have children, if we do have children over here, we have children that are now born in this country. So when you now start talking about people that we lose our heritage, it's for the elders to basically come back and teach them their heritage. However, some of it will get lost. Eventually, it will get lost. If you turn and said to me, where was my? Because originally we're not. I know that my parents were probably my parents, my grandparents, my great grandparents. Was they originally from Jamaica? Where was they originally from? Because I'm not going to know. I can only go as far back as probably my great-great-grandmother, and that's it, and I'm done. Anything further than that, it's a loss.
Why is that?
Because the history doesn't get passed down. And it's funny you said that, and I actually like the question because I had this conversation recently I went to go and see my great aunt only last weekend, and I said to her, I got a lot of knowledge from my grandmother, and I wish I recorded it when she sat there and told it to me, because now she's passed away. It's like I can't remember the conversation. I thought I would. I remember bits of it, but if I recorded it, at least I could have played it word for word. Some of the things like where my family came from and like this person that was related to and blah blah blah. And it was nice to hear. But now I've now got to relay that to my son or even to my brothers and sisters, and it's like I kind of forgot most of it. So I said, "Oh, auntie, who else knows the knowledge?" She said she doesn't know the knowledge. I said, "So who else can I ask?" My other aunt who lives in Canada. Now she's 94. And it's like, rah, so when she's gone now, who knows the knowledge? I'm like, rah, no one's gonna know the knowledge. So after that, it's like, well, where'd you come from? Jamaica, that's it, period. Now, if you now ask my son where he come from, he knows obviously Jamaica, then it would be like a case of after if he doesn't learn or go back enough, he's now not gonna know that. He's gonna say, well, where's your dad born? Your dad was born over in England. Okay, where was your mum born? Mum was born in England. Okay. And then you go further and further and further. And then eventually it's just a case of, well, you're English. But where is you from?
But to defend you, to be honest, you say your great grandmother.
Yeah.
The generation before that would be the slave ships. You're saying
well, I don't know. In the Caribbean,
if two great grandparents is
my great grandmother wasn't a part of it.
If
So
the slave ships were
great-
400 years ago,
he said two greats. So the third one would have been.
Yeah. Because his grandparents.
no way.
Hold on.
in the Caribbean.
400 years.
1 second.
For 3 generations? No, bruv.
No, not 3 generations.
But that's what great is.
Great. No,
I'll give you a little bit of
second.
skill. My great grandmother that passed away, she was born. She would have died 2005. So and she died at 99. So she was born 1906. There you go. So that's the only
your
skill I
great
can
grandmother,
give you.
yeah?
That was my great grandmother.
That was your great grandmother, and you're talking two greats prior to that.
So, based on estimates using a typical generation time of 20 to 25 years, the transatlantic slave trade would be considered roughly 14 to 20 generations ago. 14 to 20.
See?
But what you got to have in mind, that's the actual slave trade. The children of the slaves, when they were over there, and their grandchildren, that's going to be 3, 4, 5 generations after that.
Yeah.
So
I think-
to go back further to try and I think to use the same analogy, on my dad's side, I can trace back the 10 generations, because it's documented. So that's the only reason why. That's the only reason why I can go back that many generations. On my mum's side, I think it's about 6 or 7 generations I can go back, because it's. But then again, this is because it's documented. There's pictures. There's writings. There's things that people wrote. So there's documentation. But if to defend what Buddy's saying, if you ain't got the documentation, you are going to lose that. And even in the sense of what you're saying for Guyana, you are going to lose that link back home because it's not documented.
I bet you, not being disrespectful, or whatever, but I bet you, like, for example, your children will then lose that, if you get what I'm saying.
Only
Because
one person.
you don't know enough.
I only know one person in my family, no, 2, that definitely go to Guyana
regularly to have that kind of.
and she's my cousin. She's about 4 or 5 years younger than me. And
So-
that's it. And I hardly talk to her. I talk to her, but obviously not a lot, which is not good.
Citrus.
So a point was raised about British culture and Black British culture, and I don't agree. I don't agree, buddy.
I was going to say the same thing.
If you think about it, right now, and I can only put this as plainly as possible, within British culture, on Sunday, you might have Yorkshire pudding and
Sunday roast.
you might have
can
a
see where
Yorkshire
you're
pudding and
Toad in the hole. And
toad in the hole and all of them
roast
things.
beef and
If I sat down at anyone's house, any of my friends' house, who are involved
Not
in
Buddy.
Black British Black British culture, I would not expect to see those types of dishes that you would associate with British culture. So I'm not necessarily saying we're all going to have exactly the same meals, but I would struggle to find any of my friends who do not have a traditional African or Caribbean repertoire of food at the table.
I think I get what Buddy's saying. Don't necessarily agree, but I get what you're saying, because ultimately, is it not all British culture? But to that, I would say no, because it's a migration. Like, if you look at it,
It's still only 4%.
yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
It's
You
not.
still
it's not,
have to take that.
It's still gonna be. And I get with what you're saying. I'm not gonna go down the rabbit hole or where Buddy was trying to go about being born here, because I know where Buddy was trying to go with it.
No, I won't.
But my
went today.
but my point, where I understand what Buddy's saying is that if you're born here and you got the culture, is it not just British culture?
No,
but to
it's
that,
not.
but to that, I would
definitely
say,
not.
but
It's
to that,
definitely
I
not.
would say, no, it's not, because it's not the indigenous British culture.
And
You've,
if you
you've
take-
got a
if you
migration
take-
of the Black British culture that you've now migrated to make it. What is it you said before? Not acclimatise. You said appropriate.
Yeah.
We've appropriated our culture to our environment.
So can I ask a question?
Go on.
So sorry, apologies.
Go on.
Like, if all of a sudden, jerk seasoning was now on all of they started doing that in their roast. They're like, rah, everybody started doing it. All the white people, all the Turkish people, all the Asians, like, rah, jerk it's the lick seasoning. I want it. All right, and it's like, and everyone's putting it on their roast now. Does that now turn and say, oh yeah, now everyone's doing jerk roast chicken? Is it now saying now that's their culture, or is that now something that they've taken from?
I
our
would
culture?
say
They're not
no.
appropriated.
Think of tandoori.
Yes.
Do you know? Think of tandoori.
Yeah,
chicken.
is it?
It's
Chicken masala, you mean?
Oh
Yeah,
gosh,
yeah.
hold on. Sorry, Tongo, you was going to say something.
I was trying to say, in regards to British culture, if a black person appropriated British culture, let's use the terminology I'm about to use, because I can't think of a more appropriate one.
Do you want some more time?
No, but he would be classed as a coconut. He would be classed as a black British person if he appropriated British culture.
But,
black-
but,
if a
but
black
who would
person-
identify him as a coconut, though?
Exactly. That's what
The black people will approach
Sorry, justify coconut for people
right.
who.
Coconut is, for want of a better description, is a
It's
black person
a
that acts
derogatory
like he's
term.
white.
A
It's a
derogatory
racist
term. But it's
Derogatory
a,
term,
yeah.
but it depicts that a black person is acting like a white person. Yeah? And the black culture will call him that. But I feel the British, white, whatever culture may not accept him as such.
But they would just accept him as somebody who's acting as somebody who was born in the UK, adopting the
They
culture,
wouldn't,
adopting the lifestyle.
because they would still tell him tomorrow, go back to where you came from.
Even though it came from him.
Huh?
So
that's what I'm saying.
It's this is slippery conversation.
Yeah. That,
So the I don't agree with. I mean, I think you guys are going. We're forking in the road. If you get what I mean.
Yeah.
So for me, it's when you think of Black British culture. They still make jerk chicken. Do they do it how your grandma did it?
Is it done in a? The question is it done in a jerk?
In a jerk pan? Is it?
Is
even,
the history of?
Are you following the tradition? No.
Is it or is it like jerk rice? It's an appropriation. no, but it's no. But the point being,
what you're saying,
it's
man.
given a Caribbean flavour, but it's not actually Caribbean
He's given
historical food.
a Caribbean identification.
Yeah, but
not flavour.
No. Okay, let me the right word in being.
All right, Jamie Carragher.
Right word in being. When I say I don't mean tasting flavour. I mean it's given a it's given something to make it be appropriated to people that would want to that can accept it.
So coming back to it is, yes, jerk chicken will be stable in the Black British, Caribbean, Jamaican culture. However, the jerk chicken you make here, if you went downtown Kingston and served it up, the reaction you'd probably get is this isn't jerk chicken.
Listen,
Because
go on.
because obviously the limitation to ingredients that we have over here, the methodology would have changed, and
The process
probably
of
just
getting it cooked quickly to satisfy.
whatever it is, you're always going to get some dilution. Is it going to remove itself eventually, as Buddy said, eventually? But I don't see that within the next good few generations, especially as I said, with the internet opening up, people are priding themselves on not only can I cook, but I'm going to cook food from where
Auntie
you're
Susu
from,
style.
from where you're from, and cook it better than you or to the standard. Do you know what I mean? And people are like, do you know what? Actually, I've heard of jerk chicken and I've never actually known what it is. Now we've got, you know what I mean, Chef Tongo showing us how to do it on Instagram. I'm now going to copy that. So when Sirelli comes to my house, rather than give him spag bowl, I'm going to try this, you know what I mean, jerk chicken stuff.
From a YouTube
Spag
clip
bowls
from
never
somebody
been
in Jamaica.
So, and I know
Yeah.
he's got dreads. He must be authentic. Do you get what I mean? So, this, so when it comes down to it, sorry, Wiley, when it comes down to it, and you think of the culture and you think of the time of the internet, do you know what the thing is? And I know it sounds silly. One thing which amazes me is when you watch these clips. I don't know. Sometimes Instagram just pulls me down this
Rabbit
hole, boy.
this funnel, and it just goes crazy. But you watch, and I see people from all different cultures doing certain dances or singing certain songs. Like there was a guy, he's Welsh, and he just walked up to people and did an opening line to a dancehall song, and just put the mic in your face. So like, it goes, Zim Zimmer, and just put the mic in your face,
what
and then it's up to you what you do next. People look at him like, what, mate? And walking off. But there's some other guy and sang the whole thing.
So white guy, right?
Yeah, bro. And I was just like,
He knows the parts you don't know.
bruv, me. They get them sugar. And I'm finished that bit. But this guy went verse, chorus, verse. And in my head, I'm saying,
Hardcore corruptor.
that shows you that as much as
He's got a black girlfriend.
there is this 4%,
Yeah.
the landscape is much wider than that. And then one other thing which I think highlights that to me is when something, I'm just trying to think of something momentous, happens in our community, you then see it flood and make waves, go viral, make headlines, go national, do you know what I mean? Make it to national press. And that's because of the strength of the Black British culture. However, I hope that within our generation, we can, or our children can, or our children's children can use that space and that power and that energy that's natural to the melanin in our skin and make it profitable for them to be able to thrive and provide for themselves without relying on the giver from the colonizer.
And the thing is, we haven't even touched on probably the biggest influence? Carnival.
Biggest influence on what?
As in culture appropriation, culture integration into the UK. Carnival here is not like Carnival in the Caribbean. Although it has obviously the elements and whatnot and this and ever.
I
But
was thinking about
Carnival
this
here,
earlier.
sorry?
I was thinking about this earlier.
It's now becoming its own identity. It's morphing into its own thing. Obviously, it was Trinidad Carnival this week in Trinidad. And that's now become almost like an annual, like Glastonbury equivalent. Like people are flying from all across the globe to go Trinidad Carnival. It's on par with, Rio Carnival and that kind of thing. And the UK Carnival now is becoming that place where people are flying from different parts of the world who may not necessarily be able to afford to go to the Caribbean or who are not brave enough to travel to.
You're looking at it wrong. The amount of people from the US that fly over here for
True,
Carnival,
true,
from
that side
Canada
as well.
that fly over here, from all over the world that are like, I want to be here
Yeah.
for the whole
No, but
of
there are
Carnival.
people who are like, they're dedicated, like,
not even.
But also-
not even, bro.
You have to remember that our carnival, again, has influence because if you go to a Caribbean carnival, they don't have a dancehall truck and a samba truck and a Brazilian and whatever truck. And over here, we've said, everyone jump in. Everyone jump in.
I mean, not anymore, but yeah.
You know what I mean?
no more dancehall
changing
truck. No more dancehall truck.
But you've got as I said, it comes with many things. So if you look at the main aspects, you'll say you've got your floats. Do you know,
But then
you've got your
you've
steel
got
pan.
the-
You've got your sound.
sound
You've got your
system.
sound
Your sound systems, which is
But
what a lot of people don't
the
realize.
sound systems. You also now have sound stages. Do you know what I mean? Where you've got humongous.
All of us who go to Carnival,
Rampage
if
Square.
you're into dub, you'll have a totally different experience
Yeah.
to Tongo,
Yeah.
who's into salsa music,
And there's the capoeira group that are
Yeah.
underneath the flyover.
compared
by
to,
Portobello
to,
Road.
to Citrus, who'll be, I'm going there for the pan. He'll have a totally different experience. And
Yeah.
it's the same event that we've all gone to. So,
Controversially, is that British culture though? Is that Black British culture, or is that
Absolutely.
Caribbean culture coming
Okay.
in, and then we're adapting that Caribbean culture for Carnival?
I definitely appreciate the question, and I'm going to have to answer yes.
Go on.
And the reason why I answer yes is because traditionally, I mean, it still happens to an extent. Traditionally, we need costumes. We're going to get it from the Caribbean. Do you know what I mean? So that's what we're doing. Now you've got carnival camps in the UK that saying we're going to make our own costumes.
and the
Do you
people
know
are
what I
not
mean?
even from the Caribbean.
And we're not even from the Caribbean. We've designed it. We're going to learn how to do it. We're going to do it ourselves, and we're going to wear it.
I'm
So
going
now-
to number 68.
So with
doing it.
with relation to your question, Wiley, like you just said it, but if all these different things are there, you said there was a Brazilian one, there's all different types of things down there. Would it just now not be British culture, considering it's the melting pot as spoken about?
See, here's the
before?
thing. Now, I've not been Carnival for many years. There used to be
This is why there's a Nigerian float.
There you go.
Straight up.
There used to be a Nigerian. They call it the Nigerian corner.
Corner, yeah.
Now it's grown a lot bigger, but it's not seen as a to answer your question. It's not seen as a British Nigerian or it's solely, as far as I've been told and from what I've seen on the videos and stuff, solely Nigerian. So my point being is, and answer your question, I would say no, because if it was, it would be a lot more British influenced. There would be a lot more British Nigerian influence as opposed to back home Nigerian influence. And I think that's what, I don't know about with because like I said, I haven't been for many years. When I used to go before though, the influence of the Caribbean islands was very strong as opposed to the influence of the
No,
UK.
and it still is. And I mean, let's not get it
Yeah.
confused. Do you know what I mean? And the new Carnival board are trying really hard to make sure it stays Caribbean focused. Do you know what I mean? And rightly or wrongly, even excluding dancehall music from playing on the floats at Carnival to make sure that it represents calypso and soca music as it has traditionally been. Now, there are, to answer by this question, it can't be British. It can't be British. And the reason why it can't be British, because you still only represent 4%. If you took Notting Hill Carnival and pull it in the middle of Cardiff, the middle of Middlesbrough, Do you know? And you put it in the
Anywhere in middle in the word.
That being said, if you go some other cities, the carnival is very different.
but
And the demographic of people there is very
their
different.
Carnivals are different, so they might hire a massive park. Do you know what I mean? They will have a shorter route. They will have how it's done is different. Do you get what I'm saying? I'm not saying you're replicating Notting Hill Carnival, because for how big it is and what it does, as Sirelli said, there's so many things going on. It's too much. But you couldn't do it in Scarborough next week. With 10 years planning, it still wouldn't work.
And then still,
so then therefore, it's not a full representation of Britain. It's more of a reflection of the 4%. Do you get what I mean?
it's a
Before we
smaller
close
scale
off-
of Caribbean, because they have all the carnivals in the other cities that are around England, because there are several.
Yep.
Some
They
good
still-
one. Leeds, Huddersfield,
They still
Birmingham.
replicate
The Caribbean.
the Caribbean carnival and how it works.
To go to Buddy.
I'm not saying it's not trying to represent the cultures of our back homes and our Caribbean cultures or African cultures. I'm not saying it's not trying to represent that. However, what I'm trying to say to you, it's Notting Hill Carnival. It's England's carnival, right? Let's just get it as real as it is. It's England's carnival. Same way Trinidad's carnival is Trinidad's carnival. Brazil's carnival is Brazil's carnival. Do you know what I mean? So it is Notting Hill, as much as it's a representation that they're putting of the Caribbean, all right, it's still it's British culture to have the Notting Hill Carnival in August, blah 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 blah. It's Trinidad's tradition to have carnival when it's just had it during during the beginning of Lent. So it's like these things are there. So this Notting Hill, you can't now turn and say it's black British culture. It's actually British culture. That to have Notting Hill Carnival. So when they're putting on the show, I'm not saying they're not representing a lot of our heritage, because that's what it is. It's representing our heritage, all right, and where we come from. But there's a lot of people. There's a lot of white people that go down there. There's a lot of Asian people that go down. All cultures go down there.
Okay.
And again, that's what represents. That's what represents England. And like you just said, there's not just London that does it. It's not just Notting Hill. They do it in Huddersfield. They do it in Birmingham. They do it in Bristol.
I got a question. So is wireless British culture or black British culture?
It'd be British culture.
That's an interesting. That's a very
Okay, so
very
British
culture.
interesting
It's British culture.
question.
Yeah. British culture.
So you'd assimilate it to Glastonbury.
So say the same thing about Glastonbury. My guy, come on, come on. I would say the same thing about Glastonbury.
I didn't say it wasn't.
It doesn't work because
And wireless?
the music that is played at wireless versus the music or acts that are hired to play at Glastonbury predominantly are worlds apart. I heavily doubt we're going to see 10,000 black people in wellies and in
Sleeping in a tent.
Sleeping in a tent.
You'd be
to
very
go-
surprised.
It depends.
I'm
It
gonna finish
depends on the
question, I'm
artist.
gonna
Go on.
finish.
Go on.
So, going to see 10,000 in wellies sleeping in a tent to go and see Sizzler versus Capleton. I heavily doubt
Oh God! The producer nearly
it.
had a heart attack.
I said here.
So
I heavily doubt.
I think.
I never
I
said it's
think.
impossible. Heavily doubt.
I think
All the
and
hotels will be
I'm-
sold out
I'm-
in the area.
I'm
Nobody's
very,
sleeping in a tent.
I'm very wary of time.
So City
but
Splash-
what
feel like
that
City Splash would
is
also
my
be classed
comparator.
as
My comparator would be
black-
City Splash versus
City Splash.
Glastonbury,
That's-
because City Splash for me is more like a Caribbean thing, event that takes place.
Have you been-
as
have you
opposed
been
to
to City Splash?
No, as opposed to wireless, which is more an
Urban.
beach sparks urban event.
I hear you.
Isn't
So-
urban a reflection of black British
Black
culture?
culture, yeah.
This is.
You fell into this trap though.
I
was
didn't fall
about
into
to
the
say,
trap. No.
Pulling
I
it
didn't,
out.
I didn't fall into the trap. It's
Queen to Rook.
No.
Queen
It
to
wasn't.
Castle 4.
If you watch the movement, it wasn't a trap. I was leading it towards there. So being very wary of the fact of time, and this could be a very, very, very. It's a very strong conversation. Has a lot of strands to it. I'll ask very quickly as your closing thoughts. Then, 20 years time, when we're all in our pensionable age, let me say 30 years, because some people I know are young things. So 30 years time, when we're all in our pensionable age, how do we see black British culture? Is it? And I'll start with Buddy, because Buddy's view was more of it being it's already British culture. Do you think it would be, and I'll tailor it to you, but I'll ask the question to everyone else differently. Do you think it would actually become more cemented as British culture
in the
in
next
30 years' time?
Oh hell yeah! I mean, a lot of people will lose. A lot of young, and I mean, maybe I should make a little plea, but we don't teach our kids enough about their heritage. Do you know what I mean? So there will come a time, and not everybody, because there are a lot of people that will take the time to turn and say, let me teach my kids about that. But there are a lot of people that are a bit lost, but probably just concentrating on what's important to them at the time, saying to themselves, no, I've got to raise my child, whether it be singly or in a partnership. They're raising their child. They're not sitting there saying, well, look, you know what, now's the time I need to go take them back to the Caribbean so that they can go and see their family and learn their culture and learn about this and learn about that. Some of them won't do it. Some of them will then they might have mixed parents in the sense that they might be, some are white, some are Asian, it all mixes up. So when you're going to tell me in 30 years' time, I've already seen in the time that I've been alive, but I've seen the change that has come in, and I've seen the change from the kids that people have had around me, and then the kids that have had kids after that, and I'm like, wow, this is showing me that in 30 years' time, all right, when I'm old, all right, I mean, you lot say age them times, all right, I'll be able to turn and say to myself, yeah, I think it's kind of changed now, and they'll be seeing it as British culture. Do you know what I mean? That's what I generally believe. It'll just be British culture. It wouldn't be, like you said before, there is a side of it where you say urban, which is a good, they might say it's a bit more urban. That I can see happening, and it wouldn't be known so much as saying, oh, this is black culture. This is something that you lot are getting from back home. It's something you're getting from England. Grime is an English thing. All of, you know what I mean, it'll just be an English thing. People will look up to people like you said earlier, Skeptas, your Stormzy's, your Wileys, like, and sit there and say, yeah, these are the people that we're looking up to. That's what I believe.
Thank you very much. Tongo, where do you see black British culture in 30 years' time?
I still think it will be a minority, but I think we'll have a bigger influence because it become more accepted. And the reason I say that is it's strong now. We have strong representatives of black British culture in the limelight, as i.e. Stormzy, Skepta, etc., that all nations are gearing to and accepting and, you know, following and looking up to, and, you know, and I think our culture, the talent pool that we have, that I think is going to come out, whether that's in the acting field or musically or whatever the case may be, they're not going to go away. I don't think they're going to die down. And so that will keep it as a constant for the time. And I feel like if our generation doesn't remind them of their history and their family background, that it may die out. In that sense, but black British culture will thrive.
Okay, got you. Citrus.
Yo. I don't agree with these guys. I think black British culture is only going to thrive. Do you know what I mean? When we were suppressed as a movement of people a few years ago, we still found a way to individualize and grow and flourish. And no matter where you put us, we find a way through, and we get better, we get stronger. The things that are different to me is when you look at black British culture and you look at British culture, and then you look at where money, the direction money goes in, and you think to yourself, the M&S adverts have got black artists, do you know what I mean? They've got black families, Asian families. They've got all of these new things. Do you get what I mean?
Yeah.
Which, if you are from Middle England and you're thinking, I'm white, how come I'm not seeing white people on TV? Do you get what I mean? This is what the movement has done. And this is what the movement will continue to do. As I said, we're still quite young in the process of this movement. The internet has opened the door, and I want all of the young black people who watch this or hear this or understand this to say to themselves, my time is now, and I'm going to grip it with both hands and do whatever it is I want to do. Not just in music, not just in sport, not just in entertainment, in whatever field they want to do, and be a pioneer and lead in that. Do you know what I mean? These are the things that we should be sharing to say, do you know what? Because you're going to be the future where the children of the children of the children are going to say, I want to be like you when I grow up. You're going to be the name in the history books that I read and who I aspire towards. And that's what I think we need to promote and we need to celebrate. And yeah, if I still, up to today, need to go with Tongo and find out where or what part of Ghana we need to go to, then that's what we need to do. Because my niece and nephew, they need to know what's going on. The same way my children need to know what's going on. The same way my friends' children, they need to know what's happening. And if we do not tie the loop, as Buddy said and as Tongo said, if we do not tie the loop and make sure these things are relevant, they will die out and it will be our fault. Do you know what I mean? I can't blame our parents. It'll be our fault because we had the opportunity and we now have the internet. So we have no excuse.
Thank you very much. Sirelli.
I think my answer kind of sits halfway between all three of them, to be fair. And the reason why I say that is because I can only use my own example and my view on what I've actually actively done myself. Now, I'm from the Caribbean, I'm from St. Lucia, I speak Creole. Do my kids speak Creole? No. Is that my fault? Yes. Not excuse, but one of the reasons why it didn't happen is because in my household, I was the only one that spoke Creole. So it's very hard to teach a language to a household when you're the only one that speaks it. You don't converse. I learned it, and this is going to sound unreal, I learned Creole in the UK. But I only learned it because I was a nosy, fast little youth. So when my grandparents were speaking...
Sorry.
Yeah. When my grandparents were speaking, I'm sitting in the middle, so high, looking at them, and I want to know what's going on. So I picked it up. So when I went back to the Caribbean and I could speak it, everyone was like, what the hell, how is this possible? We've got people in the Caribbean that don't speak it, and you've come from the UK and you've learnt it. Now, I'm the only, out of all of my siblings, I'm the only one that speaks it. Now, it's now my job to make sure that I carry the legacy on. Now, I may not have taught them patois or Creole, but I've introduced them to the culture. I've shown them where they've come from. I'm taking them back to St. Lucia and I've introduced them to family, and I try to make sure that everything that I know about the island, everything that I can teach them about that I know myself, I make sure they understand and they indoctrinate it, and it is part of their life that they're comfortable knowing where they come from. Now, yes, they are born in the UK, they are British. They have a British passport. They don't own a St. Lucian passport. Now, am I proud of that? Of course I am. But as Citra said, it is down to us to make sure that you make them aware. Now, if you make them proud of their heritage, their legacy, they will wear it with pride and they will identify with it. They will transpose it to people around them and try to share it. So my youngest son, he's been to Carnival. He's worn a costume. He's been part of the culture. My eldest daughter is now in Trinidad enjoying Trinidad Carnival. So it's something that I want them to have as part of them. I don't necessarily need them to identify with it, but I just need them to know that it is part of what makes them who they are. To answer your question in regards to 30 years from now, 20 years from now, what the UK will look like, I think the UK will be particularly in that, and this is the part that Citrus mentioned, which was very, very, very important. London will be a city of bare mixed people. Pure different, sorry?
Diversified.
No,
Yeah, mixed, just Turkish people making kids with black kids, and then now you've
That's
got
what you meant.
You've got this child which is a quarter this, 10% that, 5% this, to the point where everybody's brown. Do you know what I mean? Everyone's got a little bit of something from somewhere. Everybody's black. Let's just make it that. But that is London. When you start to leave the M25 now, that's not what it's going to be. for me, if I look at it, I say when that happens, whereas now people look at it as, oh, you got a little light skin, you got nice hair. Oh, I think it's actually going to get transposed. I think it's going to be, right, you're dark skin. You've got that real back home blood running through you, and that kind of thing. For me, that's what I think will become almost like the desirable thing, that almost like your pure blood, if that makes sense.
I got you.
Because
Harry Potter.
no, but I'm serious, because you have to remember, people like to be unique. Now, if you're in an environment where everybody is similar in some way, the things that become unique are the ones that are not the same. And at that point, it will be the Wiley can trace back 25 generations. And do you know what I mean? His mum's Nigerian, his dad's Nigerian, he's great. And it's going back and everyone's like, rah, you are proper. Can you jump high? That kind of ignorance.
Oh my God.
Do you know what I mean? No, but that's what it is.
I get you.
Ignorance.
Yeah, it is ignorance. And I'm saying for what it is. It is ignorance. When we were young, and 90% of us here would have experienced this at some point. You go to play sports, they're picking a black kid first. They don't know if you can play sports or not, but you're black, so therefore you must can run.
Very quick story. When I was in college, that I was studying sports science at A level, and I went to a college with predominantly white students to in the class, and they were saying to me like, "Oh yes," and in front of the teachers, you know. So why is it black kids like playing basketball so much? Like, do you like basketball? And I was like, nah, I play football. I'm a goalkeeper. I don't play basketball. But the natural stereotype was that because I'm tall, because I'm black, I'm gonna love basketball. I must play it. It's the stereotype.
I mean,
but
if
that's
I
a
was to
whole
pick
Brother,
you,
I was about to say,
in
no
this whole
disrespect.
room, I'm picking you first.
But that's
and,
not-
and the thing is, I know everyone.
Yeah,
I'm still
for
picking basketball.
Basketball.
Brother,
I mean, I'm not even picking myself. Yeah, Wiley, please.
Wiley can play offense and defense at the same time.
It's fine. He's in my
Unbelievable.
team.
But sorry, Sirelli.
But yeah, so I think in 20, 30 years from now, it's going to have a totally different dynamics. I think it's going to be on its head the other way around. But like I said, in London. And I think, to be fair, it will be that way across the planet, where in the major cities where everybody wants to be and everybody wants to be part of, that will happen. I reckon in the outskirts and whatnot, you will still get that kind of, that segregation and that separation.
Listen, I've got to thank you. It's been a really, really enjoyable podcast today. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to the YouTube page,
And the TikTok
eMpTy
page.
Podcast. Don't forget to also follow the TikTok page, the eMpTy Podcast, and the Instagram page, the eMpTy Podcast. We're trying to make the moves as we need to, and the moves are being made. Make sure you follow. And most importantly, don't forget to share the content. Get the word out there, spread it out. We're trying to grow, forth, and multiply. This has been the eMpTy Podcast. And if the glass ain't half full,
It's empty. Shout out to Heaven Kenchi as well.
yes, lots of people been tuning, you know.
Yeah.